Hi, it's Cheryl with Caribou Country Lifestyle. So today it is October the 21st. It's actually my husband and my 22nd anniversary today. And it's actually a Friday. There is no work. I'm not working today. It's Pro D Day here in BC. And so that means I get the day off. And tonight it's supposed to get down to 0 degrees, and over the next few days it's going to be getting down to anywhere -1, -3. So it could get colder than that. You just never know exactly what that's going to look like. So first, I'm planning on having a day of taking a lot of stuff out of the garden and getting it ready to be composted. All those plants that I'm going to be taking out, I'm going to be chopping them up and putting them over in a pile in the compost, because then Jamie will be adding that to a new compost pile. So, but first, I have to let the chickens out. We have 25 laying hens, and so that's a part of the morning routine. And yeah, I thought I'd bring you along for all of it. This water was this tap was actually here when we moved it onto our property, and it's great. The only thing is that once it starts getting into -5 and lower, it stops working. So not the greatest as far as when things start getting colder. We have a harder time getting water, so then we have to get our water from the house, which is a little bit of more of a chore. But I mean, unless we are going to replace this, and I'm not exactly sure what that looks like because I am not a plumber. I have no idea how that even works. That's definitely Jamie's department. And so yeah, we'll give the chickens their water, and then I'm gonna have to fill up their bucket with the feed. This is where we have the chicken feed on this side of the chicken coop, and this is also where we go into to collect their eggs from. So I'm just gonna fill up the bucket first. And then this is just the basket that we use for collecting the eggs. Which I'm looking, and we already got our first egg of the day. And when I fill it, I usually fill it right to the top, and that usually gives me 2 or 3 days before I have to refill it again. Now this is a self-feeding bucket that Jamie had built. He just took a wine bucket and put in the PVC piping around the bottom, and he has it set up inside so that all the feed just doesn't fall out. The chickens just can get the feed easy enough, and it just filters down out through the hole. So it works pretty good, actually. Let's go into the coop. It's funny, I say the coop, but I meant the run. This is the chicken run. where I got the feed from, that was the chicken coop. So I'm just going to go and hang this. Jamie had built a little cover to go over this bucket, and he has it on a hanging so it hangs above the ground. So if it's wet, the feed's not going to get wet, and the chickens can reach at it perfectly. Is it because I turn the camera on that I struggle with it the most? I mean, I've never struggled with putting that on. So it's on chains, and I have to hook it on the second chain from the end of the length of chain. And it's kind of heavy to lift it up with one hand and loop it in with the other hand. I get the first one on no problem, but that second one, I was having a hard time getting that second one on. So I also have there's some tomatoes. These are cherry tomatoes in here, and some of them have split, and mostly it's my natural black cherry tomatoes. I took the stems off of the top of them, and then they just split. So I'm giving those to the chickens. I have some apple cores. I'm going to give those to the chickens too, you know, just as a little treat for them. But I'm going to let them out now. We actually have two parts to the coop. So that back door, there's nesting boxes on that side of the chicken coop, and we actually have 3 broody hens that are on that side. So if you don't see anyone coming out, that's because they're broody, and all the rest of the chickens, there's only 3 in there on that side, those broody hens. They never come out. Well, they rarely come out. This side is where the rest of them are. So once I open up this door, they're all going to start coming out. I better move this too, because they'll just go after that. I'll throw that out once they come out. Hello, ladies. Oh, I know. They're just waiting. I'm going to turn this. There's one, took off with one of those cherry tomatoes. And they just love the little treats. I'm gonna close the door before some of them escape. So in this side, this is where we have the chicken feed, we have their straw, extra bags of feed, and we have nesting boxes on this side, and these ones Jamie built, and they're a roll-away nesting boxes. So once the chickens lay the eggs, they'll roll towards the back this way, and that way we can get them before they decide to possibly eat them, and it saves us from having eaten eggs. We had a little bit of an issue with that. We don't seem to be, it's not as bad. I mean, there's still the odd time. So I'm gonna go over here and open up the doors, these side doors. It just lets some fresh air in. And then he just has a little hook right here, and that just latches into the door. And then again on this side, this is the side with the broody hens in it. So if we take a look, it's kind of dark in here. Oh, we only have one broody hen in here and a Rhode Island Red. So sometimes they come in here to see if there's any eggs. Oh, there's a fake egg on the pine shavings. So I'm going to have to put that back up into the nesting boxes. So that's one of the 3 broody hens. And like I say, sometimes they don't, it seems like they never leave, but apparently they do leave. So we'll just open up these doors. Let some ventilation into the chicken coop. There's another one coming to check things out. I never know what they're up to, but maybe they just want to actually lay an egg. Or not. Okay, so previously I did a video and I had taken all of my tomatoes off my plants, and so now I'm actually going to remove the rest of the tomatoes off of these plants. I've got a bin here. I'm just going to put these, this is the chocolate sprinkles tomatoes that I have. So I'm just going to take the last bit of these tomatoes off, and I'm just cutting them off right with the whole on the whole vine, and I'll just cut it to the last tomato that's on the vine, and I will bring these into the house, and if they ripen, great, and if they don't, that's okay, because I have a lot of tomatoes here. So I just want to take off what's on here. I think that's about it. And then next, what I'm going to do is I have a pair of scissors, and I'm just cutting off these green ties that I use to tie the tomatoes to these cattle panel supports. And then I'm going to take some pruners and chop them into pieces so that they'll compost these more easily. Yeah, so I'm just cutting these off, and I will just throw them in away. I have bought these ties on Amazon, and you get, actually, I think I got 4 reels. Whew. These scissors are really stiff. I obviously didn't check them, but oh my gosh, this is almost painful using these scissors. I might have to get my other little snippers and use them instead. I also grabbed a bag for the garbage to put all this stuff in the garbage. I don't want any of these ties to end up in my compost or in the dirt in these raised beds. So I grabbed some different, see how that works. Oh, that's much easier. So once I cut all of these ties down, then I'll start chopping these tomato plants into sections. And like I say, they will compost down, break down a lot easier than being in a full, all one plant tomato plant. I think I have one more. Oh geez, I actually see more flowers on that one. It's producing more flowers. Well, like I had said before, it has been absolutely beautiful. This just rarely happens at this time of the year. In 10 days it's going to be Halloween, and it's usually, we've already had some snow, and somebody showed me at work a video 2 years ago at that time, and she had a video, a picture of her garden, and there was snow everywhere on the garden, and that was 2 years ago. So this is just unheard of. So I'm going to grab my pruners, and I'm just going to start cutting these down into sections, and I'm giving them like probably just cutting it into like a 6-inch section, anywhere from 4 to 6 inches. And then once I cut these all down, I'm just going to, I've got my wheelbarrow here, and I'm just going to add that into my wheelbarrow, and then I'll take it over to where our compost pile is. And Jamie will start a new compost pile with these. And I think I have to mow the lawn one more time too, so he has that nitrogen to add to the compost. Okay, so I have taken out my tomato plants and my pepper plants out of this raised bed, and also I've taken and chopped everything down and of the tomatoes and the peppers. I also have taken out any onion sets also. As you can see here, I have put the onion sets. I've got some red onions and some white onions. And then I just wanted to show you, I had some onion sets that actually did not grow, but this one here, this is a red onion, and it is actually starting to grow now. And I have a white onion beside it, so I will take this one out. It's actually got another little bulb on the side of it too. I'll take that one out, but this one that's growing here, I'm going to leave that in over winter. I'm going to show you another one. I noticed in the corner here, there's an onion set right there, and it's got some green on it, and it's starting to grow as well. I'm going to leave that over the winter. And I have a little white onion set right there, and I'm going to leave that and overwinter that, and we'll come in the spring. Will come and take a look at that. Hopefully I don't forget, and then I go and dig all of this up, and because I'm going to be adding compost to this bed. I'm also just going to leave my cabbage plants. That one's really puny. I don't think it's going to amount to much, but I'm going to leave these cabbage plants in here. I'm also going to leave that Brussels sprout in there too, and I'm going to take as much off of this celery. I might even just pull them up, because I'm going to be doing processing some tomatoes, and I'm going to be doing stewed tomatoes, so this celery will be perfect to add into my stewed tomatoes, as well as my onions. I can add those into my stewed tomatoes, and whatever peppers that I get, I can put that into my stewed tomatoes too. So everything from the garden, which is exactly what I wanted. Look at this cherry tomato. All the little cherry tomatoes that are ripening on that. So I will cut off those, bring those into the house. Those are going to be awesome. And I also have a couple of tomatoes that I'm going to take off on my Amish paste. I've moved on over to my corn, and the same thing. I'm going to be taking these corn stalks, and I'm going to chop them up with my pruners, my long-handled pruners. I find it works really good to chop them up. I do have some ratchet style hand pruners, but I mean, they're good. I just find that I can use these long-handled pruners and do it in one cut. With the ratchet pruners, you actually, sometimes it doesn't cut the first cut, so I mean, it's fine. You do the second cut, the third cut, it'll definitely cut it by then. Just using these long handle pruners makes it quicker just by able to do one cut. So I actually haven't taken the corn off of these corn plants. So I took this one off, and look at how big it is. Like, it's only like 4 or 5 inches long, and it hasn't fully developed neither. But I actually tried the corn raw, and it was actually, it's sweet. It's a little bit tough, but it is sweet. Like it has a nice sweet flavor to it. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried raw corn. It's actually pretty good. So, for not growing corn for over 10 years, and these seeds are actually over 10 years old. I think they're like 11 years old or something like that. I'll have to check. But it actually has done pretty good for the seeds being that old. So, all right, I'm going to grab my long-handled pruners. I also took out my calendula, cut those all down, and I'm leaving the fern leaf dill. I'm just going to leave that in the ground. I'm not going to bother removing that out. And these are actually my cut and come zinnias, and they're still producing flowers. So if it does frost, I'll let the frost deal with that, and then I'll take them out. But until then, they're really, really pretty, and I like to leave anything that's looks still nice. I'm going to be leaving my sunflowers here because they're still putting out blooms on them. I'm just going to enjoy them for as long as I can. So I'm going to cut this corn stalk down that I just took that corn from. All of my stalks only produced one cob of corn. So, I mean, that could have something to do with the age. I think normally corn stalks, they'll actually only produce like maybe 4 cobs of corn. I used to actually, when I was a teenager, I used to work in a corn picking production place when I lived in Salmon Arm, BC. And I used to get up and go there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I only worked weekends. You had to wear long sleeves when you did that because it scratches up your arms quite a bit when you're out there picking the corn, and that's what I did for a whole summer. Was I picked corn for a summer. So yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. As hard of work it was fun. So I'm just going to cut these down. I find that if I just leave them in the ground like this, I can chop them down pretty easily, and then when I get to the bottom, all I have to do is just pull it out of the ground. Just shake the dirt off the roots, pick up all of these pieces that I've cut off, and I'm just gonna add them to my wheelbarrow of compost. I'll give you a look at what that looks like. That wheelbarrow is almost full. That's 4 tomato plants, 2 pepper plants, and a corn so far. Another thing I've cleaned, so far I've cleaned out all of my corn. I am leaving this dill, that's actually dill. This is asparagus, and that is dill. And I'm going to leave that dill in longer. Same with my snapdragons and my lobelia. But now that I've taken some of these things out, you can actually see I have a dill there. I actually have rosemary there, and this is another asparagus plant that was in amongst my Gold Rush zucchini. And in the very back there, that's another snapdragon that hasn't even matured. It just we never even seen it all year round. I'm also leaving this calendula in here. It seems to be doing really well, and I have a couple more onion sets that I'm going to leave that in for the winter. As far as my rutabagas go, that is staying in there because they can handle a little bit of a frost as well. It actually makes them better. This little leek, I think I'm going to leave that in there over the winter and see what happens in the spring, see if it comes back. But this leek, I am going to end up pulling that out. I'm deciding, I did some overwinter cover crops to, what it does is it helps, it's a good addition in amending your soil. It puts in nutrients into the soil. I did that last year. Was I put in a cover crop. There was a fall rye, there was some legumes, little bit of clover in it. It was a mix of different seed, and I actually planted that in some of the beds last year. And then what I did, we planted it into the ground, and I think I only did 4 beds last year. So this year I'm trying to decide, I'm not going to do the same beds that I did last year. I'm going to do different beds, and then in the spring when it starts to grow, Jamie made me a portable chicken coop to go over the beds. It fits perfectly over the beds. And because I'm going to be taking down these cattle panel arbors that we've put up, I'm going to be taking those down because I'm moving things around for next year. And I'm going to put the fall and winter cover crops in some of those beds. Last year, when I planted the fall and winter cover crop, we actually had to take the cattle panels down because that portable chicken coop would not fit over the bed with those T-posts in and the cattle panels in, so we had to remove them. So this year I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm taking the stuff out anyways, so I will put the cover crops in some of the beds on this side, these shorter beds. I will be putting cover crops in these beds, and possibly another bed, one of the higher beds, I'm going to be probably doing a cover crop in that. And then in the spring we'll do the same thing, put the portable chicken coop over top. We put 3 laying hens in there. He has a little nesting box that he's built inside the portable chicken coop so that they can still lay eggs. He also has a waterer that he has built that's attached to the portable chicken coop. I mean, my husband, he figures all of this stuff out. I just am glad that he likes to do this stuff because that helps me and being able to be successful in following through with some of the natural practices that we do. I don't have an organic garden, but I do follow natural practices when I'm dealing with pests and when I am amending my soil. I don't use fertilizers. I don't use commercial fertilizers. I don't use commercial pest sprays, anything like that. This last year I used diatomaceous earth on to treat some of like the slugs that were going after my peppers, and I think that was really all I used this last year was just the diatomaceous earth. So, oh, and also I used some covers over some of my broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, just to keep the cabbage moths from laying eggs onto my plants. So that's really the only practices that I use so far. I also have a little smorgasbord of treats for the chickens. These are just small little zucchini. I had the Peter Pan squash, and then there was a split cherry tomato in there too. So that's all going to go to the chickens. They will love it. Okay, so I'm at the very end of what I'm doing, cleaning up, getting everything that's frost tender out of the garden. This is my cayenne pepper, and it's still, I haven't picked not one cayenne pepper off of here yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be digging this cayenne pepper up. I'm going to be putting the root ball of the cayenne pepper into this paper bag. And then I'm going to be taking this into the house, and I'm going to turn it upside down and hang it upside down until it finishes, like the peppers, from what I understand, they're supposed to turn red. And they just are such a deep purple black that I want to take them in, and I'm going to hang them upside down in my garage and just let them finish ripening, and hopefully they're going to turn red. Then I want to dehydrate them and make it into a powder to have my own cayenne pepper powder for seasoning. So I'm going to be digging this one up first. I also have a Tabasco pepper on this side, and I am going to pot that up into a pot. I've already got my pot, and I have some dirt in the bottom. And the same with this Satsuma hybrid on the other side of my cayenne pepper. I am planning on putting that into a pot. I have a pot ready for that. And then on the other side over here, I actually have an eggplant, and it has produced a couple of flowers on it, and I am going to put it into a pot, and I'm going to bring it in the house and see what happens. It's just an experiment. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, and we'll just have to wait and see. So I'm going to dig these up. I will start with this chili pepper. So I'm just digging about 5 to 6 inches on the outside and getting underneath. I'm going to try and get as close as I can to the raised bed without disturbing too much on the plant. Might as well take this tag out. Lift it up a bit. I don't have to be quite as gingerly with this plant as I am going to be, and I'm just going to knock some of this dirt off because I don't need all of the dirt to be with it, not like with my pepper plants on each side. I'm going to try and take as much of the dirt as I can. I have my paper bag. I'm not going to put it in a plastic bag because I actually want it to dry out. And then what I'll do is I'll tie this around it with a rope or an elastic, and then I'm just going to hang it upside down, and then I don't have a bunch of dirt that's going to be in my house and make a big mess. So I'm just going to put this one off to the side. Just prop it up there. Okay, so next I'm going to dig up this Satsuma pepper, and this I want to be a little bit more careful about digging that up, not disturbing the roots if at all possible. Come over on this side. The ground is really nice and moist. We had a rain. It would have been the night before last that we had a rain in the middle of the night. So that's actually good. And I have 2, 4, 6, 7 peppers on here and more flowers. Okay, I think I got it now. I'm just going to use the shovel to help anchor the roots to get under it. Okay, I'm going to add it to my bucket. And then I will just put my little tag in with it so that I know it's the Satsuma. pepper. I don't need this weed. Okay, I'll move this off to the side. That's got that out there. So that went pretty good, actually. I wasn't sure how that was gonna look. Fill in my hole. And I'm gonna move over to my Tabasco pepper in front over here and do the same thing. Okay, I've got it now. And I put it in one of these Jiffy pots, and I don't know if I would use these Jiffy pots again. Well, I actually have quite a few of them that I purchased. And okay, and then I'm just going to add some dirt from my garden into here. Put it around that. And then I'll put my tag in here. And there's another one. Done. Okay, last is going to be my eggplant. I'm gonna do the same. This is my Vittoria eggplant. And this is one that I planted, that I started from seed myself. So I will go around the outside. I've got a few buds on here. So again, this is the only reason I'm trying to get off of these plants and be able to see what I can get from it. Last year, I started my own eggplants and they didn't amount to anything, and I ended up buying eggplants to put in the garden. This year, my eggplants actually did make it into the garden, but they were so small. So I'm just trying to get what I can from them. And what I'm going to do is put these under my lights that I have downstairs. And okay, I have taken everything out of the garden that I need to be taking out right now. I still have some Swiss chard and I have some kale that I want to be taking out of the garden, but that again, I don't have to do that right now because it's a light frost, and that gives me a few more days. I have tomatoes that I want to be processing today too. So far, I purchased actually 30 pounds of tomatoes. That was before all my tomatoes started to ripen. I went and purchased 30 pounds of tomatoes, and I did it all up into salsa. I ended up getting 31 pints of salsa made from those 30 pounds of tomatoes that I purchased. I did use all of my peppers and all of my jalapenos, and I actually bought tomatoes for that. I actually had to buy more peppers because I didn't have enough. So this is basically all that I have to worry about, and I'm probably going to be taking out these leeks as well. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like, taking out anything that's going to be affected by the frost, getting it out of the garden or before I lose it all. So thanks for joining me. I hope you liked this video. If you liked the video, throw a like in there. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to subscribe too. I have still lots more in the garden that I still have to deal with, but I have time. I'm leaving my carrots in the garden too, and my beets. I'm going to leave those in the garden as well. Kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, rutabagas, and I will be picking the stalks from my celery and using that into my stewed tomatoes. So again, thanks for joining me. Like I say, if you haven't subscribed, you might want to hit that subscribe button too, because I still have lots going on in the garden. Anyways, thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.